Hello, we are live. I'm so excited to be here today with Ashley Thompson from MUSH. And I'm Allie Wyatt, co founder and CEO of Female Founder Collective and The North, which is our expert advisory platform. As a quick note, something really important, we actually just finished up with Female Founders Day, which is our biggest event of the year, our summit. And we are now going straight into our cohort launch, which is our spring cohort. There are limited spots. It's our private membership community for the 10th house. And the final applications can come in up to April 14th. So you still have a couple weeks left to join. And we highly encourage you to and would love to see you inside. And just as a quick recap of what you'll get a private membership community where you can connect to founders by stage, industry, geography, as well as go to over 100 events that we have per year. Some of those are virtual, some of those are in person, but they're largely led by our founders. We have these really great community conversations that happen around your pain points. So if you're looking for investors, if you are trying to figure out how to hire, if you are trying to figure out what email platform you should onboard, these are all things that are constantly discussed within our community. But without further ado, I'm going to jump into Ashley. And just a warning for everybody, my kids are on spring break, and so they have been frequent joiners in all of my video calls. And then also I'm in Park City, very luckily, and we are currently having our roof scraped of snow because there's been record snowfall here. So apologies for any background noise. But let's jump into Ashley, who has a really amazing story. She co founded MUSH in 2015 with a conviction that simple, delicious, and nutritious food can elevate the world in really powerful ways. Having graduated from Columbia University in 3 years, worked on Wall Street, and named to Forbes 30 under 30 for building a high growth CPG brand, she confidently espouses when you eat well, you feel well. And when you feel well, you do well. Mush is now the leading brand in its category, powered by an incredible team of passionate individuals who love to help others feel, think, and do better. And I absolutely love the blueberry flavor. And I'm so grateful that you've made it because it makes it super easy to eat healthy in the morning. And it's delicious. Every flavor is great, but I really love blueberry.
Thank
I'm
you,
going
Al.
to jump right into it because we have tons of questions. And I think you've had so much experience that we can all learn from. But initially, you made the leap from Wall Street to the world of CPG. What lessons did you learn on Wall Street, a heavily male dominated environment, that you brought to building your business?
Yeah, great question. So, first thing I learned, one of the most powerful concepts is the idea of compound interest and and it applies to investing, right? So when you put some money into some sort of investment vehicle and it earns a little bit of interest over a long time horizon, the number grows exponentially. It's a really powerful concept. And I think you can apply the same thing to focus on building a business. And so if you focus for a uncommonly long period of time on the same thing, doing the same thing well and better, it can grow exponentially, but it does take a long period of time. And we talk about this a lot at Mush. We've been making and selling overnight oats for 7 years now. And it's that continual focus over a long period of time that has really helped get us to where we are today. So I would say that was a huge concept that I really came to understand while working in the world of finance because I could see the numbers, I could see
Yeah.
how it all worked, and it was really tangible. The another thing I learned, and this came from Goldman specifically, they had a value that said, "Don't be short-term greedy." Basically, what they were trying to communicate to all employees is that every day you're going to be faced with decisions. And sometimes if you make a decision, you might win that day, but it might not be um, something, it might not be a decision that helps you get to where you really want to go in the long run. And it actually could negatively affect. So maybe you make a trade with a customer and you really win, but it wasn't great for the customer. That's not great for a long-term winning relationship. And so don't ever sacrifice what you want in the long run for what you want in the short term. So that was another powerful concept. I think that can be applied to all things in life, not just in business, not just building Mush, but a lot of other things. And then the final piece, I would say, this was something I learned after like reflecting on my time at Wall Street, which is the idea that you're going to be so much more successful if you're really passionate about what you're doing. I think when I got to Wall Street, I didn't really know if I wanted to be there. I didn't know if I really had a strong interest in it. And I realized I didn't. And I realized that there were a lot of other people who were obsessed with it and they just kept getting better and better at it. And I kind of stagnated at some point because I just didn't care to be there. I didn't have an interest in learning how to make money with money and the markets and all that came with being there. I had it. My interests were elsewhere, and so reflecting on that, I'm just so glad that I didn't stay just because of the prestige or the job, but followed my passions, my pursuits, and I think I've gotten so much further as a result in doing that.
It's interesting. It's like the first piece is very finance specific, right?
Yeah.
But I love the short-term greedy suggestion. Actually, I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, that's my husband worked at Goldman Sachs as well. And
Uh,
so he always says that to me, don't be short-term greedy. And
yes.
I think it is such a great lesson for business owners, particularly like you said, in customer service, right? And I'll even be on the phone with customer service people and be like, I'm a big customer, don't be short-term greedy.
Yeah.
But it's so true. It's like maybe in that moment you make a little extra money, but the long-term repercussions of that, you might lose a customer, they might talk to other people. Second, they have a bad experience, then your whole business can go south. But let's talk about the passion piece of what you were just saying, because you have a founder story, right? Like, why did you choose Mush specifically? And why did you feel like there was a need to do what you wanted to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Why did I choose Mush? So, first and foremost, I think Mush is a reflection of a lot of my beliefs. I believe in the power of healthy food. I believe that healthy food should be really accessible, and that's basically what I tried to marry. I took this old concept of oatmeal and tried to modernize it and make it as accessible as possible by making it more convenient, making it a little bit tastier, and then the idea was to widely distribute it so that as many people could try, buy, and love the product. And I think I chose oatmeal specifically because I knew that oats are a commodity. They're actually relatively inexpensive. So I knew by taking what is a superfood, it's super satiating, super nourishing, really, really healthy, and commercializing it, I could make a product that was both healthy but also accessible from a price perspective. I think the industry that I sort of live in at this point and exist in, the better for you industry, folks are obsessed with like premium food, like healthy food and it being premium. And my belief is that healthy food should be accessible, not
Yeah.
premium. So that was really how I landed on oatmeal specifically. And then in terms of overnight oats, I had just been making them for a long period of time, and I saw the value in them. Having something ready made was a lot tastier, better texture than oatmeal, and I could see that no one had pursued this concept at scale. Like this was back in 2015. Overnight oats were a very novel concept in the United States, but it was an age-old practice in Europe with muesli and
So
you know
delicious.
yeah, we've been soaking grains for hundreds and if not thousands of years.
Right.
So I was super excited to see that this concept already existed at large, and it was just new to the United States. and kind of put all those pieces together and thought, this is the most brilliant idea, and I'm going to pursue it.
And then you started off from a retail perspective going direct to consumer, which for a food brand, and particularly a refrigerated food brand, must have been really hard. Can you talk about that decision and, how you were able to execute on that?
Yeah, so holy cow, it was an interesting journey. So we kind of got our start in like mom and pop. First we started in farmers markets, and then we decided to take the product to like small coffee shops and gyms just to continue to get a sense for what kind of consumer is latching on to this type of product, what kind of flavors do they like just really figure out all the nitty-gritty details that matter to making a product successful. But then yeah, we went on Shark Tank, and we decided that we were going to sell the product online. And so it was like our first major revenue stream was online, and it was the best and worst experience of my life because we have a highly perishable refrigerated product, and the unit economics on refrigerated direct to consumer don't really work unless you have a suite of products that you can put into the to a box and sell. Like no one wants 30 units of overnight oats at a time because you only have so much space in your refrigerator. So you're kind of
Right.
constrained to selling fewer units, but then you're spreading the cost of the ice packs and shipping over far less units, and it's very unprofitable. Not only that, but just the ecosystem, the infrastructure is not set up. Like FedEx doesn't care that it's perishable. They have delays all the time, like shipping, there's so much out of your control. And so it was a good experience in that it was so painful. It made us pivot really quickly and not rely on direct to consumer to build our business. And that's how we really like gained a lot of momentum, gained the courage and momentum to get into actual retail, which is where the majority of our business is at this point.
So let's rewind to Shark Tank, right? Because that was like where you discovered that you have this consumer interest in your brand, right? Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
In terms of Shark Tank is obviously the highest pressure situation you can probably put yourself in. You're on live broadcast TV in front of these very well-known investors getting grilled. What are some of the things that you did to prepare for that experience? One, and then what are some of the things you learned about pitching coming out of that experience?
Yeah. So to prepare, first and foremost, watched a lot of Shark Tank. Like, how does this work? What do people do? So just a lot of observation and note taking, which was really, really helpful. And you can, if you watch enough Shark Tank, you can start to see the patterns that exist in and the thread throughs from episode to episode. So that was the first thing. The second thing is we had never raised capital up to that point. And I didn't know. Obviously, I came from a finance background, so I was comfortable with numbers, but I had never gone through a fundraising process. So that
Yeah.
was all new to me, and I wasn't sure what, um, what I should think about. So I had a lot of friends in finance. I had a couple of friends in private equity, and I just called them and talked to them about how should I think about valuation? What should I be considering? We're still such a nascent, business. How do I even make sense of the numbers that we do have, which are very little numbers? But we were as thoughtful as we could be with the little information that we had about where the business might go. And I think like the one big thing that I learned in watching a lot of the episodes is, again, don't be short-term greedy. That's where a lot of people blow up. They just go in there, they believe they're the best new thing ever. They can command some crazy valuation with like barely any proof points, and they get ripped apart. And we weren't there to be greedy. We were there to share this wonderful idea we had with a bunch of consumers, like market the product, build a little bit of awareness around it, and hopefully do a fair deal with a shark who believed in the product. So that's sort of how I prepped and how I thought about going into it. Sorry, the second part of your question, I think, what did I learn from pitching?
Yeah, like what was a really impactful part of your pitch that you felt landed and that sort of taught you about pitching from then on?
Yeah. I think I think authenticity and and recognizing that you don't need to know everything, but that if you're there showing up as yourself and you are being super truthful and honest, just the physiology in the room changes and it's
Mm,
productive. And you don't need to know everything. Like we didn't know every single little detail and number. Like and if we when we didn't know something, we just said, we're not sure, we'll come back to you. We tried to prepare as much as possible. But you can't prepare for everything. And so I think I really do think showing up authentically. And then also one of the most important things about pitching, again, is believing in what you do and the passion that you show for it. That goes such a long way. Like we got up on stage and said we want to change the world. Like we really believe, and we still do, but we really believe that. And I think Mark, especially, who we partnered with, was just so drawn to that kind of bold vision and the authenticity in it. Like he could see that we do want to help people, we do want to shape the food industry positively. So those more like intangible, touchy feely things, they're not the hard and fast numbers, and you can't ever predict the exact total addressable market of a product. So don't try to pretend to do that, but believe in yourself, be authentic. Those are the things I learned.
But it also sounds like you have a broader mission, right? In that you shared how you want to change the world. And I think a lot of times what entrepreneurs get caught up in is like, what is that broader mission, right? How is what they're building and what they love, how can that actually impact something much greater than just driving sales day to day? Can you talk a little bit about that mission and how you sort of communicate the value of it up front? And do you think that it is necessary for brands today to have that?
Yeah, yeah. Vision is so important. I think it provides purpose in the long term and it unifies people. And it actually, a lot of like great goals fall out of having a really clear vision. And it just creates a lot of alignment for teams to take the right kind of action. It sort of keeps, like, businesses can be like a little unwieldy and you're constantly fighting entropy. And I think a vision can really like unify people and create a little bit of structure and organization, whether people believe it or not. Our vision at MUSH is to fuel humanity with positive energy.
Mhm.
And we do that physically through our food, but we also do that mentally through the messages we put out, the kind of content we put out. Signing up for things like this. This is positive energy that we're putting out into the world. And I think that is really, really powerful. And it's unified so many people. We have 130 people working at MUSH who really believe in the power of positive energy, both physical and mental, and the connection between the two, and how important it is to living a healthy life and leaving the world a better place than how they found it.
Love that. Love that so much. And as like a business owner, you're thinking about the bottom line so often, but that actually can really contribute to it and also contribute to employee staying power and, like you said, energizing them towards a mission. So let's talk
Totally.
again about Mark Cuban
Yeah.
because like drop the mic. Mark Cuban invested in my business after you nailed the pitch, which is awesome. What part of what you were talking about do you think intrigued him, in addition, obviously, to the authenticity that you brought to the experience? And what lessons have you learned from him?
Yeah. I would say the first thing that intrigued him was just the product itself. Mark is he's not a billionaire by accident. He's really bright. And
Yeah.
if there's one thing that I think he's really good at, he understands consumers and where the world is going with consumers. And so he knew early on, he knew before we even got in there, that better for you food and beverage is a whole big white space. It's got a lot of momentum behind it. We've got a highly educated population dealing with a lot of health problems, and we all know that food is medicine. So right off the bat, just like healthy product, boom, he likes it. The
Yeah.
second thing, which is kind of nuanced but relevant, is that he's lactose intolerant. So we were a dairy-free product. Had we had dairy in it, we've seen it through episodes, he's like automatically out because he's not a consumer and he like can't get behind it.
Yeah.
Um, so we were dairy-free. That helped with him. But then the third thing I think ties back to what I learned because it's what sold him, is that really big, bold vision, that we could change the world with a little idea like overnight oats. And then I think the final thing that probably really helped get him on board was that we had put all of our own money into it. So we put our money where our mouth was. We had both, my co-founder and I had each emptied our piggy banks. And this is to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. And as a 24-year-old, I mean, that's pretty significant. It's all relative, but we
Crazy.
had emptied everything. And so all of those elements combined, I think he could just see that like, all right, these ladies, they're going to go somewhere. They really believe in this product. They're doing everything they can to get it off the ground. And they're not being greedy with this valuation. So it was a bit of a slam dunk for someone like him.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And I love that, again, you put skin in the game and he knew you were in it for the long haul. Because a lot of times as investors, when you're looking at an entrepreneur, you want to know that like they're in this ride and they're willing to lead this ship through storms and whatever might come your direction. I want
Totally.
to talk again about retail strategy because after Shark Tank, you did the DTC thing. You realized this isn't a very profitable business. I've got to branch out. How did you think about retail strategy after that? And then how did you land your first retailer?
Yeah. So I would say we knew the only strategy was we need to get into retail. That was the strategy at the get-go. I think over time we've refined the strategy, and I would say it's all about the right retailer at the right life stage of the business, with the right amount of resources, with the right strategy for that retailer. Like all of those things have to come together. The way I think about it now is like, what channels do you want to go in? Do you want to go in grocery? Do you want to go in mass stores like Target? Do you want to go in what some would call away from home, like Starbucks or other coffee shops? So what channel in what geographies? Like where is this product mostly consumed? Is it a coastal product? Is it in the middle? Is it in the south?
And how do you know that from the onset?
A lot through data and just staying close to the consumer and then trying, like trial and error. Like
Yeah.
we eventually figured out the early adopters are on the coast because we went into a retailer in the Midwest and it didn't move. And so that was a data point for us, like, okay, the middle of the country, this category is so nascent, the middle of the country is not ready for it yet. So let's focus on the coasts. And then let's focus on the right retailers on the coast. And then what's the right strategy for each of these retailers, which is so important. All retailers, on the surface, a grocery store is a grocery store, but it's not. They're different size footprints. They work off of different margin profiles. They have different routes to market. There's so much that goes into developing the right strategy to stay on shelf, to get your product moving and turning. Our first retailer was, again, we used more intuition than any like real formidable strategy. We launched in Whole Foods. Why? Because we know like what's Whole Foods known for. It's known for being like the domineering, like better for you health food store where folks are going there to discover new products, to try new things. There's a certain standard that they uphold in terms of ingredient decks, et cetera. And that was one of the underpinnings of MUSH, was really simple ingredients. So we launched in Whole Foods in March of 2017. We launched in 10 doors in the Southern Pacific region. And that was it was a wild ride. It was crazy.
And then there's when you get into retail, there's things like velocity and also sort of being pinned up against the competition. Where are you sitting on the shelves? Can you talk a little bit about some of those nuances? Because somebody actually just, was talking about this. It's so important. You don't necessarily, when you're creating a food product in particular, realize all of these nuances and then how different they are store to store. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about Whole Foods and that experience and sort of the initial
Yeah.
learnings? And then
Yeah.
one more question for you as a follow-on to that. Did you
Yeah.
all sell the product into store yourselves, or did you have a rep or a broker of some sort?
Yeah. So the biggest learning we had in launching with Whole Foods is just how important the 4 Ps are, but especially one in particular, at least for our product. So the 4 Ps: price, product assortment, promotional strategy, and placement.
Mm,
And the fourth one, placement on shelf, matters so much, especially when you're developing a whole new category. And when we launched, we originally had this idea that we would be like an on the go meal replacement. So we wanted to be in grab and go sets. Over time, what we found is that folks are also eating this at home. They're
mhm,
eating it with yogurt. It's sort of the same consumer eating yogurt as it is mush. And so the better placement for this product in the store is actually the yogurt set. And making that transition from grab and go to yogurt was one of the more painful processes I've ever been through in business because it was just it's just challenging to switch placements in a grocery store, for a number of reasons. Buyers, competing priorities, shelf space, et cetera. So there's just a lot of friction to overcome, and I really wish I had known that when you launch, you gotta know what place you wanna be in the store, based on how the consumer conceptualizes the product, where they might discover it more readily, and what might be most successful for your brand and product in general. So really wish I would have known that because that was sticky. We sold the product in ourselves. We didn't use a broker. We did so many things to try to get into Whole Foods. So the first thing we did was we surrounded all Whole Food stores in the Southern California region. We sold our product into all the mom and pop shops around, so that
smart.
hopefully folks who work for Whole Foods go into another store, they look at, competitors, and they're like, oh, they discover the product. So we did that. Then we also sampled our product a lot with alongside other brands that were already in Whole Foods, and we kind of networked our way in with them and asked them, like, who do we go to? How did you do
Yeah.
it? Just glean some insights from folks who are more experienced. There was one company in particular, it was a juice company that had a huge set at Whole Foods. I made friends with one of their sales reps, and he gave me the name of the of someone high up in the region. I pinged him on LinkedIn, and he actually got back to me. He put me in
Wow.
touch with the local forager, Monica, who is the most wonderful human in the world. She's literally still to this day like the biggest brand champion, and she is such a critical part of the journey because she's the woman who like let us launch in retail. It's incredible. Anyway, she's a special person. And we met with her and got it in. So it was a winding and long process. It took like 6 to 8 months, I would say, from the time when we were like committed to launching in retail to when we actually got in, but obviously well worth it.
Amazing. I mean, the tactical advice that you're giving is so invaluable because I feel like we have a lot of food and bev brands that are within our membership, and we talk all the time about how hard it is, how competitive it is, and especially with
Yeah,
CPG, the margins and really understanding that retail strategy is so important. We only have
right.
time for one more thing because we're already over time. So I'm actually gonna, because you gave such interesting information, I sort of veered off path a little bit. But what I want to ask you is, what's a piece of advice, I always like to end with this, that you would have given yourself before you started had you known, or that you would give these other founders who are out there hustling, building their businesses and trying to grow them and succeed?
I would say the biggest piece of advice for any founder that I would give, and especially to women, um, believe in yourself and still remain humble. So every day you have to believe in yourself. If you don't, not many other people will, because people are perceptive. They can sense when you're really unsure, you don't know, or you're having a bad day. Like we're human beings. We're sense making beings at the end of the day. And I think figuring out how to truly believe in yourself is really, really important, especially with such a roller coaster ride that is building a business. And you can fall prey to, like, you can fall victim to hubris. Like, you also need to be humble and continue to know and believe in the idea that what you don't know is more important than what you do know. So,
Mhm.
it's that kind of balancing act of, like, I know a lot and I can do this and I believe in myself, and I don't know a lot and I need help and I need to go seek out advice. I think finding that balance is really, really important. So, that's probably the advice I would give.
So beautiful. I love that so much, and it is especially important for female entrepreneurs to believe in yourself. But yeah, that balance, that sort of perfect, I'm always growing and I'm always learning while also being confident in your ability to execute is amazing. Well, Ashley, this has been incredible. I've already learned so much. I'm hoping that our founders who have joined today have as well, and everybody who's joined. Thank you for your time and for doing what you're doing to build such amazing things. And go try Mush because it's amazing. Really quickly, where do they find you? And where do they
Uh,
find Mush?
yes, Costco, Whole Foods, Target, Publix, Wegmans. Go to your local grocery store. If you can't find it, ask about it, and if it's not there, email us hello@eatmush, and we'll try to get it in there. But those are the big names.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Really
Thank you.
grateful for your time.
Thanks so
Bye,
much.
everyone.